Hello. If you're new here, you probably think you've stumbled across some weird New Age Catholic channel. And if you're returning, I know that you're thinking, oh no, she finally snapped. But rest assured, both new and returning viewers, my name today is Sister glitchwitch.jpg. It's typically just glitchwitch.jpg, but as you can see, I'm a woman of the cloth now. Don't tell my husband, he's sitting in the other room. And we're going to talk about something that I never talk about on this channel, and that is religious analog horror. I can't believe it either. I can't believe it. It's the most shocking thing I've ever done. I'm subverting all expectations. But seriously, today we are going to be discussing a honestly older analog horror series, one that's been going for 3 years that I had never heard of until one of my lovely viewers suggested it. So thank you, lovely viewer, for suggesting it. I appreciate it. Love when y'all suggest stuff. Several people have suggested different things. I'm, trying to work through it. I appreciate it. Please keep doing that because I'm finding really cool things. That's how I found McKinney family home videos, which I'm still so grateful for because I love that series. And I think this is a really cool series too. So, if you're new here, my name is glitchwitch.jpg. I make videos about internet horror, which typically means analog horror, digital horror, creepypastas, ARGs, internet urban legends, and sometimes I cover scary movies or like survival horror video games, which usually just means Silent Hill. And I'm also a self-proclaimed Catholic weeaboo. As you can see by the environment I find myself in, I'm in a room of my house that I call the chapel. Its only purpose is to house all of my husband and I's religious coded decor and for me to film in it. We didn't plan for me to film in it when we bought the house, but here I am, almost a year since starting this channel, and I'm still doing it. I'm recording on a pulpit. I have a facsimile of the Cloisters manuscript, Cloisters Apocalypse, excuse me, and I own 3 fake habits, so, I think I'm a little qualified to be like the covering religious analog horror on YouTube girl. This will be the, let's see, sorry, my habit is slipping. Also, this is Eileen, my cat. Her brother Walter is somewhere. He usually appears, but today you get Eileen. We have covered, of all the religious horrors, we have covered recently Polished Mercury by Joaquin Bonk, which I love. And that's very Catholic coded. We've covered the McKinney family home videos, which is much more like Southern Baptist Americana. Love that too. We've talked about Angel Hair and Max 2019, which both involve angels. I feel like there's absolutely more and I'm just forgetting. I mean, I've talked about the Mandela catalog and things like that. Today, we are adding yet another religious analog horror to the Glitch Witch religious analog horror coverage roster, and that would be Sisterhood of Salvation LLC. I'm gonna take these glasses off because it's 7:40 at night on a Monday and I don't really feel like it. I already have the habit on. I don't need to be like Corey Hart and wear sunglasses at night. I truly had never heard of this at all until it was commented in one of my videos, which surprises me a little bit because it is one of their earlier series. The thing that's interesting about this series is there are only 4 uploads, and all of the uploads have been super spread out, with the most recent coming out a few months ago. So they're averaging about a video a year. Hello. I want to make a note. I say this later in the video, but I found out at the very end of this that they upload every year on June 18th, intentionally. So we will get another video
June 18th, 2025, if everything goes accordingly. But I just wanted to point that out because I think that's really neat. I admire the dedication, and I think that adds to it. So go back to Nun to Sister Glitchwitch.
Which I think is interesting. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Obviously, for dumb algorithmic purposes, it can have an issue because YouTube's stupid. But, take time, cook. I think a great example of the benefits of waiting is the Walton Files. Martin Pedreus waited several years for the most recent installment of the Walton Files, and I think it's maybe one of the best analog horror videos ever made. So, there's nothing wrong with waiting, and I definitely think this series has evolved in an interesting way, and even though I haven't heard of it personally, it seems to have a very loyal and excited fan base. Like, when I looked at the comments of especially, the second, third, and fourth uploads, I saw a lot of people who were like, oh my god, I never thought it was going to continue. I'm so glad I got the, upload notification. So, people love this thing, and I frankly do get it. I think at first when I started it, I had some reservations that I'll get into, but knowing that the first video is 3 years old, I think adds interesting context, because this series feels like your earlier analog horror series, your Gemini Home Entertainment and Local 58s and the like, and knowing that it came out when it did, it's not derivative, it's simply, a peer, if that makes sense. I am very intrigued by this. It's very vague. I would say it's one of the more vague things I've covered. And that means I can theorize like a little freak, which I always love doing, and I hope you guys enjoy too. But I just want more eyes on this. This original video, I'm looking at my computer, is off to the right. It always is for me. The original first video called Behavioral Management Program Stage 4, it racked in a lot of views. It has 42,000 views, but then they're smaller and smaller. I think simply because probably when this came out, there weren't as many analog horror to consume, and it probably did really well because your Geminis and such were doing so well. But I really am excited to talk about this because I love religious horror, and this is a unique one, and I think it's refreshing to get some old school analog horror. I know it's so silly to be like, something from 2 years ago is old school, but the way that this community moves and changes, it is. They have stayed pretty consistent to their aesthetic and vibe, even though, analog horror has changed a lot in the past 3 years, so I have to commend that as well. I've not found a lot about this online. I always like to go onto the analog horror subreddits and stuff and see what people have said, fan reaction and stuff, and I've not seen a lot about this elsewhere, outside of YouTube. So, hopefully as they keep posting, more people will keep watching, because especially the most recent upload, I'm very intrigued to see what else could come out of this world. So, what the heck is Sisterhood of Salvation LLC? Now, that's not a super easy question to answer, and because of that, I think that we're going to sit and watch all 4 of these videos together, and I'll discuss video by video, similarly to how I did with Polished Mercury. Because it's so vague, it's kind of hard for me to summarize it for you. Now, I do encourage you to go watch these on your own first, just because I think it's always good to give the actual creator the views. So please do that, but then come back and we can watch them together and talk about it. But if I'm to give a basic explanation on what this series is about, it is about some sort of religious group called the Sisters of Salvation LLC, who are trying to reach out to the children within their community for nefarious reasons. That is pretty much all there is in terms of what the plot is. I think there's a lot of interpretation for this. As someone who has a lot of experience with different subsets of Christianity and Catholicism and the relationship between the powers that be within those institutions and some of the more vulnerable people, like children, I definitely am reading into this in many ways. For those of you that aren't familiar, I did a dissertation in college. I'm a graphic designer, but it was a graphic design project where I focused on the Pennsylvania grand jury report, which covered the abuse of many, many victims at the hands of Catholic priests and clergymen in it was 7 dioceses in Pennsylvania, and I picked up a lot on just the way that specifically people within religious institutions are profiled by organizations like the FBI and stuff to see repeat offenders and things like that. So as dark as that is, I often go into pieces of fiction that deal with, the church and the imbalance of power that happens within these organizations through that lens, simply because I'm very familiar with it and I spend a lot of time with it. And it's kind of hard to forget those things. And I also do think there are things we should talk about because, the reason that it happened for so long is because people didn't want to talk about it. So as much as it's uncomfortable to talk about, it should be talked about. And I don't think that that's exactly what's happening in this series. I think there's a different kind of very real political implication to this series that I'll get into. Oh gosh, Glitch, which is getting into hot water in this one. But I'm gonna go crazy Matt Pat game theory on this one, okay? And you know what? Last time I did that, I did it with Polished Mercury, and Joaquin Wong told me I was right. Kind of. He said I had like the most accurate analysis so far. So I feel invincible right now. I don't think that Sisterhood of Salvation is going to give me the time of day, frankly, because they're like OGs at this point. They probably don't care that some random bitch is talking about them on YouTube. But without further ado, let's get into this, and let's start with the original upload, Behavioral Management Program, Stage 4. This video starts off as many early analog horror did, with some sort of instructional at-home VHS tape, which makes sense because when you strip analog horror to what it really should be home videos or instructional tapes or found footage, one of those things. So this makes sense. This was very popular thanks to things like Local 58 and especially Gemini Home Entertainment. I feel like really, obviously, home entertainment is in the name. So this is a tape from the Sisterhood of Salvation LLC, and it is essentially part 4 of a 4-part behavioral program for children. So we're not seeing parts 1 through 3, which I think was really interesting. When I first clicked on this, I thought maybe that I had missed some uploads or something, but this is the first upload, so I think that's really interesting and a smart plot device to leave us guessing what the first 3 were, especially as this unfolds. I would be curious to know what leads to stage 4, because clearly there are maybe things that the children could do or react to make them not make it all the way here to stage 4. And the video tells us that the video was delivered inside of a wooden box, and the box also contains a syringe and a vial labeled antibody, and you have to have these in order to continue with stage 4, and they ominously say keep in a well-ventilated area, which by the end of this we know why that is, because it's gonna get stinky. And the tape says, wait, restrain your child, but do not continue until you are ready, because once it starts, it's starting, and it will be complete within 60 seconds. So I love the visual of this, of actually having like a mother with like her child, like it's like, I don't know what year this is actually supposed to be in, but anytime things like this aren't given a date, I think of instantly, I'm transported to the Todd Haynes movie Safe, because that has the most like late 80s in house interiors. And I just picture that, like, this happening in that house, and it just is very uncomfortable. Yeah, I did not expect this to go in the route of essentially the parent is poisoning their child. And the way that it's described, they go through, all of the symptoms that the child experiences, both physically and emotionally, while this poison is killing them, or this antibody they're calling it. And it sounds a lot like cyanide poisoning. It reminds me of what you hear about with the Jonestown massacre, when they drank the cyanide-laced Flavor Aid. But the thing about this is at the end, when they convulse and foam at the mouth and everything, they start to decompose immediately, so I think something else is going on here. And that was why they wanted a well-ventilated area, because they're going to start stinking. Ew. It's a really bold way to start a series, especially a series that, like, wasn't followed up with for a little bit. Like, it's very heavy, and I love it because it's not at all jump scare visual horror. Everything is just described in text, and you have to imagine it yourself, and it's just the concept itself is what makes it so scary. And I think that's really refreshing. I know this isn't recent, but just watching something like this, that there's really not a moment in this entire series that is traditional horror that you think of. And, that's something I've always kind of cherished about analog and digital horror, especially, some of the earlier ones. But even this doesn't go to places like Local 58 does, where Local 58 is really scary in the traditional sense sometimes, with things like you're on the closest or fastest available route, or like the creatures in Gemini. Like, this is all just forcing you to imagine the unthinkable, which is a parent harming their child, or just the harm of children at all. That's something that makes anyone uncomfortable. And we really have zero indication why this is happening. At one point it says you had every opportunity, so that's where I am so deeply curious what happened in stage 1 through 3 that led to the child in question having to go through stage 4. And I like that we don't know, because you can think of anything in the world. And honestly, I know this is called the Sisterhood of Salvation, which makes me think of nun, Catholic nun, right? But a lot of the behaviors of this do not feel Catholic. It feels more like Christian Science or very, drastic evangelical things, stuff like that. And even, it makes me think of some of the really messed up therapies that people have tried to give children who are, trouble, whether it's things like the birthing therapy, which many of you maybe are familiar with that because of its weird kind of inclusion in the internet horror, essentially golden child pet Scott, but essentially rebirthing was when people would sit on a child or try to simulate them going through the birth canal, and it often meant sitting or putting pressure on them to try to get them to like reset. I mean, it makes no sense. It's absolutely ludicrous. It's just abuse, and it resulted in the death of a child. This makes me think of more things like that rather than anything Catholic. So I have no clue if the Sisterhood of Salvation is even traditionally Christian. They may have nothing to do with Christianity. They may just be using the guise of being nuns to make people feel safe. It's really interesting. It's super vague, and I don't have a concrete answer for what any of this is, but that's what my mind is going to, like, the weird insistence on like fixing problem children that was going on in like the 80s and 90s, like the troubled kid schools where they would parents would pay these totally not sanctioned organizations to come and like kidnap their children in the middle of the night and then take them to this like reform school where they would just treat them so horribly. There's lots of documentation about that. Nextbo did a great video about it. Last Podcast on the Left did a really good series covering several of those. That's what I'm getting with this more. It seems to be a punishment of children thing rather than your traditional doing this for Jesus kind of thing. I don't know. Obviously, there's more to be explored. I do like the way this is presented. Like, it's nothing visually crazy, but I like to talk about typography. I like the use of typography in this. It's easy to read, but they do distort it enough that it feels like it's kind of old and kind of, run through the tape and everything, which I like, and I like the colors and things like that. I also like that it's a little bit funny, like the whole, that there's a button at the bottom of the box and a rose comes out, and that's their way of being like, sorry for your loss. Which is like so absurd and really morbid, but also really funny. I think it's off to a great start. I was definitely hooked immediately because this is such a pretty crazy concept, even though we don't know a lot what's going on, but just the thought of ordering a series of home tapes that result in poisoning your child, like, that's kind of crazy. It makes me want to learn more about this world and about the Sisterhood of Salvation and what would lead a parent to this, place. Like, did they know that this was the final stage when they bought the tape series, or were they completely blindsided? Because, you'd think they wouldn't want to sell these to someone who would be horrified by this because they'd, call the police. So you assume it's people that are fully sucked into this, essentially, cult. And again, it made me think of Jonestown, it's the antibody sounded a lot like cyanide. But I think it was something else because of the decomposition, the smell, but maybe that's something that happens quickly with cyanide. I'm not sure. I am no chemist. But let's move on to the next video. That was the longest one. The rest are all under 3 minutes, which is kind of crazy. And the next one is called Community Outreach Program, Grade Principality. So this is interesting because this is more on the perspective, rather than being aimed at a I guess cult member essentially, or a purchaser, this is aimed at one of the sisters, and the grade principality, I assume, is referring to her seniority, and that makes me think of the principality angel. There are different hierarchy of angels in angelology, and the principalities are one of the lower ones. So the principalities are in the lowest order of angels. It goes, and I did have to reference this, but seraphim are the highest. They're the closest to God. They're the ones that have 6 wings. They have the 2 covering their eyes, 2 on their back, and 2 covering their feet, which, if you didn't know, feet was a euphemism for genitals, so angels are hanging dong.
Okay, I'm busting out the Bible because I know that this is a point of contention apparently in biblical study. Feet was a euphemism more in the Old Testament. I'm just going off of, I have the New Oxford Annotated Bible. That is the Bible I have learned on. I am not religious. I am just a hobbyist biblical scholar. So I'm going off of Isaiah 6:2. Seraphs were in attendance above him. Each had 6 wings. With 2 they covered their faces, and with 2 they covered their feet, and with 2 they flew. And if you go down to, it's the Annotated Bible, baby. It says feet, a euphemism for genitals. So don't get mad at Glitchwitch. Get mad at the New Oxford Annotated Bible 5th edition, fully revised and expanded. Thank you.
That is the biggest takeaway I got out of my Bible class that I took in college. If my professor is watching this, Nicole, I am so sorry, but I will never forget it. I took a lot out of your class, but I will never forget that feet mean dong. And then the cherubim, which I'm here. This is my chance to set the damn record straight. Cherubs are not them damn little babies that you see in Renaissance paintings. The series even references cherubs later. That's not what they are. They are monstrosities that have 4 heads. They have the head of a man, the head of an ox, the head of an eagle, and the head of a lion, representing the 4 evangelists. Those animals are what represent Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And that's scary as okay? They're not little cute babies. They're monsters. Then we have the Ophanim, or the thrones, which are my favorite. I have one tattooed. They're the wheels. Like, when you see the memes that are like biblically accurate angel, it's usually thrones that people are talking about. Then in the middle you have dominions, virtues, powers. I'm not really going to get into those. The top 3 are the coolest. And then in the lowest order you have the principalities, the archangels, and just regular angels. So archangels are our defaults, like Gabriel, Michael, all that. So the principalities are slightly above the archangels. And principalities are in charge of like guiding bigger groups, whether that's groups of people or churches or like nations. So I think that's interesting because I think it does connect to what we're going to see in this video. But clearly this video is aimed at sisters who are rising in the ranks, but they're not quite to the top yet.
The following is a paid advertisement from Charo Cleaning Services.
When Robert J. Charo and his experienced cleaning team visits your home, you can relax and focus on the things that matter, while the team acts on 218-191-2125. That's 218-19-1212-5 and find out how we can help today.
This video is targeted at a sister who is rising in the ranks. She has essentially unlocked the ability to be part of the community outreach program. So clearly the Sisterhood has several programs. We've heard already about the behavioral management program, and now this is the community outreach program. And the specific sister has been tasked with being part of middle school outreach, which sounds like a nightmare. That's my hell, is being sent to talk to a bunch of crazy middle schoolers. God bless our middle school teachers, principals, counselors, all of those people, because you are doing the Lord's work. The sisters are not doing the Lord's work as much as they think they are. You are. I would love, do I have a middle school teacher watching this channel? That would be crazy to me. Like, that just seems like that would not gel. But if it does, hi, you're doing a great job, you're doing amazing, sweetie. I guess schools are allowing this religious organization to come in and talk to the kids, teach them about their Lord and Savior. So I guess they are Christian, or they appear to be. I'm gonna go forward with them being traditionally Christian. I don't think they're Catholic though. Like, I'm not getting Catholic vibes from them. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. They really have a fixation on troublemaking kids. If a kid misbehaves or is disrespectful to any of the sisters, they say, tell a principal or a teacher so they can get a detention. They want you to reach out to the parents to tell them about the behavioral management program. So that seems to be their ultimate intention, is to sell that program. And yeah, I'm really getting the same vibe of like the troubled teen schools and just that type of therapy and essentially traumatic abuse against kids who were troublemakers. You know, it's silly. You shouldn't be forced to undergo something traumatic simply because you mouthed off in the 6th grade. That's a little silly. That seems to be the emphasis on this one. So it's just kind of further emphasizing that. And yeah, I don't trust these schools that are letting these random, like, nuns just come in and talk about God. Separation of church and state, baby. Come on now. And I also like the cleaning ad in between these. It's like they recorded over something. Always love that touch in any analog horror series, but I also wonder if they're the cleanup crew that was referenced in the first video. And I saw a very helpful comment that I'm going to read. Someone said, Burnout Elysium said, interesting Easter egg in this video. As another comment below by Peach Jam mentions, the numbers at the end, 2, 18, 1, 9, 12, 12, 5, if converted to their alphabetical equivalents, spell out Braille. If you look at the pattern of the nun symbols behind the congratulations as you've been a member text, the transparent ones are actually Braille letters that spell out the third heaven. I don't know the significance of this yet, though it should be noted that it refers to an important concept in Mormon theology of being the ultimate heaven granted to believers after the final judgment day, which checks out given the series theme so far of shady religious organizations. And there was a reply that was helpful. Ty Youngblood 15, who said, well, Judaism, Islam, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and early Christianity, it's the area of heaven God resides in. So that kind of refers back to the 3 orders of angels as well. The third, the highest one, is the one closest to God. Also in Dante's Divine Comedy, Paradiso is the third and final part, which goes into this as well. That's interesting. I appreciate those people commenting. I think that's super helpful. And I am going to go ahead, I'm going to put a Glitch Witch stamp of this is Christian. Fully Christian. Don't know what breed of Christianity. I think it's its own breed of Christianity, but it's certainly Christian. And I think that they think they're saving troublesome kids by killing them, essentially. I think they think that they're, allowing them to go to heaven early. I wonder if it's some sort of judgment day thing. I'm not quite sure yet. But, you see that a lot with certain serial killers and stuff who do like mercy killings, or they kill children when they're still pure, things like that, because they think it's going to save them from, a life of hardship. But honestly, the sisters don't give me the vibe that they think they're saving these kids because they're pure. I think they're trying to punish them. But I don't know how that would lead them to go to heaven exactly. But it's very interesting. I'm very intrigued by this. This is like some very fascinating world building that is, it's leaving me with more questions, but I'm not mad that it's leaving me with more questions, if that makes sense. So let's move on to the next video. This one is probably my least favorite because I feel like it's tonally the one that I don't vibe with. Like, it just doesn't fit the other three, but we're still gonna watch it. So this one is called Awakened Waters in partnership with SOS LLC, SOS Sisterhood of Salvation. Love that it's SOS. So this is an advertisement for essentially a Christian Bible camp with a big focus on baptism. So that's what makes me think this is more like non-denominational, evangelical, that kind of thing, because those are like, that's what I think of when I think of church camp. I have never had the pleasure of going to church camp because I was really dirty agnostic. But, you know, I've had friends. My husband was a frequent church camp goer, but I don't think any of his church camps were quite like Awakened Waters. Let's take a look.
Discover a place of tranquility where the waters hold the key to transformation. I feel reborn, like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. Welcome to Awakened Waters, where seekers of truth come together to embark on a journey of self-discovery.
I was lost, but then I found myself at Awakened Waters. It's a truly life-changing experience.
Our baptism ritual is a sacred ceremony where you will merge with the very essence of nature itself.
The connection I've made with others here is something I'll cherish forever.
At Awakened Waters, we offer more than just solace. We offer salvation. We beckon you to embrace the sacred bond between body and water. Let the gentle currents cleanse your spirit as you surrender to the transformative power of the water. Release your inhibitions and let the water wash away the remnants of your past, guiding you toward a boundless future. Become one with the water, and it will reveal the depths of your true potential. Awakened Waters, a gateway to liberation and enlightenment.
The thing about this one is it's an advertisement, obviously, so it's presented a little differently. It's not like an at-home tape. And if you didn't say the words like baptism and stuff, I would think this is more like a New Age cult rather than like a Christian cult, but the baptism obviously brings us back. But there is such an emphasis on the relationship between the person being baptized and their relationship with the water, rather than their relationship with God or becoming pure. That's what it feels a lot more New Age than Christian. And basically, I think they're drowning people. I think they're taking people to this camp and they're drowning them in the super secret baptism ritual. And that's why they're emphasizing their relationship with the water so much, because your final moments on Earth are going to be sucked under the water. So I guess they're maybe trying to just kill as many people as possible in an attempt to, I don't know, strengthen God's army or some crazy shit like that. Like maybe they think that, God having more people in heaven is more important than having followers on Earth. That could be the case. Again, I'm working with not a lot here, and that's not, I'm not dissing them. I like how vague it is. I think it's really smart. because y'all are going to watch this and probably have 80 billion different theories than from what I'm saying. But this is definitely my least favorite of the three, just because I think it kind of leaves the kind of blueprint they had going, the format, and it's just a lot of stock footage, which is fine. It's still well edited and it's still, you know, whatever, but I prefer the tapes. I just think the tapes are more interesting and kind of the signature of this series, because 3 out of the 4 of the videos are these tapes, either directed at, you know, the parents or the sisters. So with that being said, let's move on to the final video, which is the most recent one. This is the most recent one. It was posted only a month ago, and it's my favorite. I think it is the most intense of the 4, which is saying a lot considering how intense the first one is. And it shows how, like, dark these girlies are. So let's take a look at Evelyn's final gift. Now, again, I think this one, I do find it a little funny. You know, it's not often humorous, but at the beginning, this is clearly a template that they've used for many, many sisters, because there's just a space to put the name, and the name Evelyn is too long for the space, so it like kind of goes off. But essentially, Evelyn is the intended viewer of this tape, and she has risen in the ranks so much that she is being given this big final task, and it's going to secure her place in the eternal light of the sisterhood. And you know, they're using phrases like final days on earth, all this. They tell Evelyn to go to a event filled with people, specifically children, and pose as a face painter. I assume that the face paint is mixed with a similar component as the syringe. It's the antibody they referred to in the first video, and she's told to recite a prayer, and essentially she's mask these kids at this event, and then she is instructed to go say bye-bye elsewhere to herself and make sure that she's not found and not associated with the Sisterhood whatsoever. So again, the fact that this is a template where there's room for different names, this means they're doing this more than once at least, but probably semi-frequently. And at the very end it says, "May the light of the Sisterhood guide you always. May your arrival in Elysium be heralded by the cherubs you send before you." Signed by the CEO, who we met in the first one. Let me get his name. Nicholas Myra is the chief operating officer. So of course a man is behind this. Can't let a woman be in charge. God damn it. Not even the Sisterhood of Salvation. Essentially the cherubs, like I said, I know as a deep angel lord diva, I'm a little annoyed that the cherubs are being referred to. They're the children, essentially, that she has sent before her. Ugh, which is so gross and weird and scary. I hate it. So in this instance, cherubs are the little chubby babies from the Renaissance paintings. In my heart of hearts, cherubs are very cool monstrosities. And Elysium is essentially like the Greek heaven. So that's just a cool way to say it, you know. So the one thing that I don't know, that I don't understand, I feel like the names mean something and I'm not smart enough to figure that out yet. Because it's Alice, Lexi, Flo, Worth, Ost, which you could unscramble to be host, and Golf. Essentially affirming that their number one goal is to mow down as many little buggers as possible. I'm trying to say this in a way that YouTube's not going to kill me. I want everyone to anticipate next June 18th. It's a holiday for the analog horror community now. And I really like this. There's so many possibilities. I lean the most to it being just a cult essentially trying to take down as many people as possible to appease their god. They could even not be traditionally Christian. They could be some sort of anti-Christian organization, and that's why they're taking down the most pure and innocent. But I don't know, I'd like to think they are actually traditionally religious. They're just kind of doomsday, end of the world, trying to get God's army full of child soldiers, I guess. I don't know. And you know, there's a lot that you could really get in analyzing this, and the way that a lot of Christian people feel about, you know, the sanctity of an unborn child versus an actually alive child. You know, they have a lot to say about abortion, but then, you know, there's starving, abandoned, not very well off kids out in the world, and they don't care about them because they're not a fetus anymore. So there's that argument to be made too, that it could be an allegory for something like that. But I think it's more than that. I think that's a pretty loose read. I'm intrigued by this. I really like it. I can't wait till June 18th, 2025. Hopefully I'm still making videos then. I know the Sisterhood of Salvation LLC will be, because 4 years in a row I have to applaud. So please go watch these on their channel. Let me know what you think. Let me know your theories, because again, this one is so vague that I would love to know your theories and just get more of like a community conversation happening about this, because I'm intrigued. It's kind of got me stumped. Like, it's so vague, I don't really know what I think. Like, I felt pretty confident about Polished Mercury coming off of it. But this one is a little more vague. Sorry to keep saying vague so many times, but I like it. So, wow, yeah. I don't know, the more, like, I watched it earlier, but then rewatching it again while filming this, like, I'm very intrigued by this. And I love the gimmick of that they post every year on June 18th. I think that's really neat. They did post in their community thing, their community tab 3 days ago, saying the most profound truths often lie hidden. Seek and you shall find. So I'm sure there's some coded shit that we don't understand yet. You know, I'll absolutely make an update video on this, but it's not going to obviously be anytime soon unless there's like a big community wide crackdown, or, it comes to me in a vision in the middle of the night, which I doubt it's going to happen. I'm not smart enough for visions. God doesn't like me enough to give me visions. I've been asking, but he won't give them to me. Thank you to Ivor Foster 7466 for suggesting this to me. They also suggested a few other series. One was Polished Mercury, which when they commented this, I was in production on my Polished Mercury video, which, if you like religious horror, please check out Polished Mercury. So good. Incredible. And they also recommended something called Joy 3513, which I'm not familiar with. If you are, and you also would like me to cover that, let me know. Again, I love when you guys comment suggestions, because I literally had no clue about Sisterhood of Salvation, and it's literally just been sitting there waiting for me to find it. So I really appreciate it, and I just want to talk about these smaller series because I don't think they get enough love. I love the Walton Files and the Mandela Catalog and all those, but I think these series deserve to be talked about just as much. And I know I'm not very big. I mean, all these series I'm calling smaller have more followers than I do, but anything to get the conversation started, I think is important. So thank you so much for watching. I want to take a moment to thank my lovely YouTube members. I have my first tier Creepypasta OC up here, and then on Survival Horror Emo we have Erob, Odini, and So-Called Punk. And then on Analog Horror Scary Face we have Kira Coffer. So if you're interested in becoming a member, you can just visit my channel. There's 3 tiers. It's just a way to support me, and you get your name in the video, and there's custom emojis, and Survival Horror Emo and above, you get access to like polls and input on the types of videos I make, and then Analog Horror Scary Face also gets some custom design stuff from me. So no pressure to do so, honestly. Just watching, liking, commenting, and sharing means the world. I really appreciate it. I love this community of internet horror, and it's been a delight to be able to cover all these series, especially lately all these religious analog horror series, because it really does tickle me. I'm sure you can tell I'm very excited by all of this. So again, thank you so much for watching. Do not watch any behavioral management tapes. If your mom tells you to sit down and watch one of those, don't. Which I know most of you are adults. I think all of you, if I look at my audience breakdown, you're all adults. So yeah, if your mom calls you and tells you to come over to her house and you're a 26-year-old woman, don't do it. There's a weird syringe. Stay away. And yeah, no nuns in schools. Thank you. Even Catholic schools, take them out of those. Get rid of them. I'm riffing. Can you tell? I don't usually record these on Monday nights. Oh, thank you for watching. Goodbye.